some new 2018 Sounders.
Sounders?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like a bumper music?
I don't know.
Like, it's 2018.
Yeah, something
We
like
need
that.
a little effects board.
2018.
Soundboard
Right.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Soundboard.
Oh, hi, Mark.
So basically just Steel K fans soundboard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's always got good stuff on it.
Right.
How's everyone doing here? Doing?
Yeah. Happy 2018.
Yeah.
Yay, New Year.
Yeah. Finally saw you this year.
Yeah.
Talking to you this year.
Right. Oh, we're a weekend, I think.
Yeah, we're a weekend. This is the 8-Bit Podcast, number 18, for those keeping score at home.
18.
Yeah, 2018, an 18th podcast. It's not a coincidence. It was planned that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how's your holidays?
Woo. Busy.
Yeah.
Busy and
Santa Claus come?
yeah, Santa Claus came. Not for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah,
Right.
we're too old for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came. He conquered. He left.
New Year.
New Year.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
Yeah, clean slate. Now we're good.
Nice.
Glad the holidays are over. You know, you go that run from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, and now it's just like, let's take a break here.
Yeah.
Take a little breath.
I opened my wallet and like little moths fly out of it.
Oh, I call that my receipt holder.
Oh yeah.
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 That's all mine
George
hold.
Costanza.
George Costanza receipt holder. Yeah, cool. Jan, you had a good holidays, everything?
Yeah, it was really low key this year, which was pretty much exactly how we planned it.
Nice.
We just stayed home and just relaxed around family.
Looks
Took
like
some
you
time
got
off.
a beard. You got a beard for Christmas.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Santa Claus.
Getting some extra winter protection.
Nice.
Right.
How's the wife like that?
Hates it. Absolutely hates it. But you know, I got in trouble because she said, "Well, you just went and started growing it without asking." I'm like, okay.
She's got you dialed in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You guys got any New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, don't grow a beard.
Rats, I already failed.
Done.
Mine is to not have New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's going pretty good so far.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no resolutions per se. I personally hate January. It's always cold and dark and long, and I can't stand it with a passion.
Way too cold.
Whatever, we're getting there. We're making some headway finally here.
And we've talked about this before, but I don't mind January as much as March and April. It's just the sloppy time of year,
brown.
and you're like, all right, it's gonna get warm. It's warm now. Nope. Bam.
It's Charlie
Dried.
Brown's cousin, by the way, Sloppy Brown.
Yeah. It's like an alternate universe
Yeah.
of Charlie Brown.
Do. Yeah, Sloppy Brown. Cool. No, it's funny, you know, with the new year, you know, and resolutions and stuff, you know, the other day we were talking about, we always seem to see like trends and things to look for. You see it all over the place, not just in the design world, in a lot of different ways, you know, a new you as far as, you know, fitness and, you know, it's kind of that kind of wiping the slate clean and moving forward. So it's funny, and we were talking about what we were going to talk about today, you know, is some of those quote unquote trends that we've been seeing certain blogs and stuff put out there for design, and I don't know, what do you think of any of that?
You know, some of it with, you know, our experience in the industry for this long, it's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
This is gonna trend. Cool.
Yeah, wow.
I should probably get on that trend.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. A lot of it we've talked about I feel has been, you know, trending for a while.
Yeah.
I think we see hand-drawn type. It's like, okay, well, I think we've seen that for 10 years now, but
Right.
it's still cool. I'm not saying that, but is it
Right.
really trending, or is it just a thing?
Right, it's just another continuation of something that's been going on. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think some of it's cool to look at and, you know, think about at least. And I know some of it we're currently doing, and it's not because it's a trend, but it's because it's
Out of a need, or just nature of where we're at with things.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know the other thing too. I know you were kind of talking about, was kind of being like, man, I don't know if I really trust that. It was like the bold, bright color thing, and
Yeah.
you know, you get down the nitty gritty type of aesthetic piece, but you know, like we were also discussing, is just the nature of industries and stuff that I think it's unfair with some of the things put out there as being a quote unquote trend.
Right.
You know, depending on what you're working on, it doesn't always apply.
Well, you got to always go back to, for example, with the colors, you got to go back to the client's color palette. You know, what's their
Right.
corporate color palette. And,
Right.
you know, if neon green fits in there somehow, or if it's a special campaign that it works, great. But
Right.
I think a lot of clients shouldn't be using big bold colors. And
Yeah.
but, you know, whatever.
I mean, a good example I always think of is like Spotify has got some really beautiful, you know, way they market themselves with these bright, duotony kind of gradient style pieces, you know, and then it's got a very, very minimal typography and stuff. Beautiful stuff,
Yeah.
but it's music. It's streaming music.
Mhm.
It makes sense for that.
Right.
It's a young feel. It's whatever. That doesn't apply to half of our clients.
Right.
You know, so there too, you know, why would we? So the first to call it a trend is just kind of like, okay, sure,
Right.
you know.
But there's other stuff that we've talked about is it's a necessity because of technology.
Yep.
Right.
You know, we have to do it because that's the way technology is going, and
Right.
you know, we'd be stupid not to do it that way.
Well, I think over the years too, if you take a step back and look at, you know, 5 to 10 little year chunks, like even from the mid '90s, you know, up until now, you're going to see quote unquote trends, maybe things that have kind of either come back around like most things do,
Yeah.
or they're just done different. And it could be, who knows, it could be like you said, even just technology or cultural, or who knows, that kind of influences that, you know.
One of the things I had to separate my mind while reading these, you know, 2018 trends is they're trends. It's not necessarily cutting edge things, you know. So you think of I can't even think of an example, but you know, these are trends that, you know, people can forecast and see coming. It's not necessarily this new breakthrough that everybody's going to start to use or need, or
Right.
this amazing new technology, or maybe it is a trend, but I kept thinking like, well, why isn't this on here? Why isn't that on there? It's
Yeah.
like, well, I guess trends to me is probably going to be more mainstream,
Right.
and not everybody's doing it. So
Yeah.
I was struggling with that earlier, thinking about like, well, why are these things on there and these
Right.
aren't? But I guess they're two separate lists.
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah. Well, and it's funny too. You look at, you know, even if you look at, like, we look at a bunch of different things just to see what people are talking about, and you know, graphic design spread out as far as quote unquote trends versus like web design and those types of things. There are some similarities, I think, and I think it's kind of, you can kind of plug them in either way, because I think it's not a definitive, you know, graphic design means print and web design means strictly this, or there's graphic design across the specific medium, right? So to see similarities doesn't necessarily, it's probably, you know, I should expect that, you know,
Yeah.
but
When you read these lists, are you like me where it's like, okay, if it's on this trend list, I don't want to use it?
Well,
if everybody else is doing it,
Yeah,
it's trendy,
sometimes.
maybe I don't want to do that because
well,
no.
yeah, and that's a good point. I think for me, I look at it and I go, do I really believe that first? And then the more I kind of think about it on some of them, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I have seen that. But I think when you're, I don't know, I think it's sometimes whether you're doing a quote unquote trend or not isn't because you're consciously saying, oh, I'm going to do this because it's a trend. It might be just, like you said before, it could be outside influences that just kind of lends itself to to maybe doing a quote unquote trend in the execution of a problem. I don't know, you know.
Well, I think some of the lists that we looked at, we are doing some of those things and have been doing them for a couple of years
Right.
now. So it's good to see that, hey, people agree with we should be doing this,
Right.
but it's like, well, we've been doing that for a couple of years. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I know, like on the web design side, you know, I think with a lot of the things I saw, I was not surprised with, and I think it goes back to the rise of mobile. It goes back to the rise of content as a marketing tool.
Yep.
In the continuation of that, it's not going to go away. It's probably going to get worse. But then it's a matter of
Better.
you know, as things, yeah,
Better.
How do you always kind of stay ahead of the curve? Because there's, you know, that can get stale pretty quickly when you think about, you know, social media, blogging, you know, all the different content areas, inbound type of areas across that digital world that you have to think about to really be hold a true kind of brand essence alive. You know, you've got to kind of like, well, how do we do it different this time that still gets us attention versus, you know, so I can see a lot of that stuff having to happen, you know. I know we saw a list like SVG graphics. Well, you know, we've been doing that for a while.
Yep.
Website stuff. I would say we're doing it a lot content-wise per se, but definitely, and there's a reason for that. To be able to scale across all the different pieces and the responsiveness of going down to a tablet, going down to a phone.
Save size, bandwidth. Load speed goes up.
All those things. Yeah, it looks crisp. It's based on the vector-based, piece. So
I was going to say the SVG graphics are a really cool example of function and form, because we're doing it because like you're saying, the size of the file, the size of the website is reduced quite a bit with those graphics, but man, does it look great. So I love that. It's for both reasons.
Right. And it just it lends itself to that kind of really minimal, crisp kind of feeling, I think, too, that, when you see a trend, I think because flat design has been all the rage the last bunch of years in web design, whether you're doing it or not, or to some level, I think everyone's in some form or fashion using it. And that's kind of that UI kind of the user interface kind of feel, applications on your phones, obviously responsiveness on your website on the phone. So how do you, again, create something that's very utilitarian in a way, and I think that's where you see the rise of that kind of stuff.
I think it's funny you mentioned flat design. I remember a while back somebody had asked us, can we do flat design? And I'm like, I better look this up. I don't even know what they're talking about. And I look it up and I'm like, you mean what I've been doing my entire career as a designer?
Right.
I never got into the other non-flat design. Wasn't really my strength. Or
it's funny though.
I never liked that look.
No, I know. But if you look at like when the iPhone first came out, there was that kind of like bubble look.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It had that kind of like pseudo, and then it went away from that into the quote unquote flat design. You know what I mean? So there was that kind of. I would say that's more of a trend for a couple of years. But there again, that was dictated by a piece of new technology coming out, and then you saw it everywhere for a while.
Yep, everything had drop shadows.
I missed that trend, so now all of a sudden I was cool again.
Right.
For a while, it's like, oh man,
Wait long
this
enough.
guy doesn't know how to do non-flat design.
Yeah.
Wait long enough, anything will be cool again.
Yeah. Well, then too, with it all makes sense, and then we saw on some of the lists that the rise of illustration in web design and the rise of animation, and I think that all is just a continuation of flat design to how do you stand out with your content? How do you, one of my favorite things right now on my stupid phone is using the dumb Jiffy app with my text, where I put stupid stuff on. Granted, it's video clips, it's all whatever, but it's the idea of animation and having little quickly understood kinds of ways of presenting an idea.
I'm going to stop you right there, just for our tens of viewers.
Yeah.
I call them GIFs. I don't know. I think.
It's funny. That's always been a raging. We're having troubles with our cameras again. I think when you and I first started working, I think we called it GIF, and then we heard it was called GIF, and ever since then I've always called it a GIF.
And I actually looked it up a while ago. Somebody was asking me about it, so I actually looked it up online, and the creator of the format says it's GIF.
GIF.
He or she doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
so.
clearly.
Yeah.
But we still call it GIF.
Right.
So.
I call it GIF. I'm the outsider.
Call me Geff.
Right.
Geff.
No, I'll call you Jeff because it's with a J.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and not a G.
Right.
Yeah.
How we doing over there? We're all dialed in?
No. That one shut off again.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's mine.
Shutting off
Hold.
every 30 seconds or something.
While Jan turns the camera back on, what were we talking about?
How wrong Phil is.
Well, yeah, I interrupted you with that.
But no, I think...
your favorite thing on your phone.
Yeah. Well, and you think about, again, the mobile stuff, that's one thing, too, that I saw, and I don't disagree with, is just now that for a while there, a bunch of, I'd say a handful, 3-4 years ago, there was a lot of responsive sites, but it was probably still not as a big deal yet for most people. But now I think they've learned, obviously, with Google having their stance about responsiveness and just in general the rise of mobile. I'd say it's the majority of websites now are responsive versus not being responsive, and there's probably sort of room to grow with that. But with that said, I think some of this stuff too is again the rise of mobile has kind of lent itself to wanting or needing some of this stuff.
Yep.
I mean, at some point we got to stop saying the rise of mobile too, because I mean,
Right,
it's
'cause
like
yeah, it's there.
It's
it's
there.
been
It's
here.
It's
and
been
it's
here. It's there.
central.
It's always
Right.
going to be here now.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not even the rise anymore. And I
Right.
think we talked about it before, where for a long time it was, you know, you got to think mobile first, and we talked about it how we're thinking of everything simultaneously almost right now.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, we've been asked even in pitches before, like, well, are you guys mobile first in your process? And of course I say yeah, but I think there's a caveat that, I mean, and maybe now that I say this, I mean, I think we could definitely go mobile first and work our way back, because we've done so many responsive sites. But up to this point, it's been, yeah, we think about responsive, but we first have always thought about the desktop. You know, at least got something started, you know, through our process, and then we jump right to the phone and kind of fill in the middle, if you will. You know, you work your way back. And some of the things on mobile dictate what we do on the desktop, and vice versa. You know, as far as how it needs to stack and you know, break points, and what is it going to do, and is this going to be showing? Is that not going to be showing? I think one of the things we saw too in some of these lists is, you know, kind of the now that I think people are on these or have a responsive site or responsiveness figured out, now how do we push the envelope again? You know?
Absolutely.
So you're probably going to see, and actually we've done it on a couple of things, even our own new website, which is coming out soon. You know, some things that aren't necessarily groundbreaking per se as far as a navigation, definitely different than anything we've ever done before. And we've seen it in a couple other spots. So it's basically, like you said, Jan, it's kind of like introducing content within navigation a little bit, you know. So
If you think about some of the stuff we've done too, now we're looking at mobile thinking, okay, this is the way you would do a menu, or this is the way you do navigation, those things. Now we're kind of transferring that to the desktop. Like, wouldn't that be cool if we did it like the mobile and things like that? So now it's almost reversed a little bit, and we're not thinking it that way, mobile first necessarily. We're thinking it all together, but we're taking some of those cooler elements we like about the mobile and putting it across all three platforms.
Yeah, it used to be that mobile content was an alternative to what you saw on the desktop, and it's not anymore. It's they're both related to each other, showing the same content in most cases.
Yeah, it's true. And what you're just saying too, with even like navigation, things like that, you see more and more. And actually, we're doing it on our own brand new website. Is our desktop view has more of a mobile feel than it does a traditional desktop view. You know, and I think part of that is, you know, you go from a desktop down to a tablet view nowadays. Not a whole lot different there. It's usually when you're on your phone, but even now on the phone, it's not the big deal. I mean, like I said, we might make decisions about, let's not show this image, or we'll show it this way versus, you know, but the beauty of that is we can do that at certain breakpoints and show different types of content or different ways to fit the screen better. You know, so it's interesting where that goes. So yeah, definitely when they're talking about trends and that kind, I agree that we're going to see probably some pretty cool, fancy mobile type things now, because now people are kind of used to the base, how to use a mobile menu. Now, how do you push the envelope? I think you're going to see more and more of that.
Jan, we talked about this a little bit earlier in our pre-meeting about is there any need ever again for a mobile-only separate site? So you talk about the desktop site and a separate mobile site, which you used to see all the time.
There shouldn't be, from my perspective anymore, particularly if it's a website-based app. I mean, there may be very specific niche applications where you want a dedicated mobile view, but having a separate mobile version of your app just adds maintenance. You're better off and more efficient making your site responsive and presenting all the same information and just using the platform to its best capacity.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you started out, were you thinking mobile friendly?
Well, at that point, we were carving information on stone tablets. But when I first started doing web development, mobile wasn't the thing. We didn't even have to consider it. And then we got to the flip phones that could show black and white text only. And at that point, you had to have a separate view that could take the text content and present it in a way that could be readable. And you had little buttons on your phone to scroll with. We didn't have touch screens.
Right.
Boy, I feel old.
Well, I mean, back then, I didn't even have data plans. You know, so even if I could get on a website, I didn't know how, or
it was
couldn't.
Yeah. And then there was this gradual progression that phones started to have more and more capabilities, and then that's where you started to see you would have a click to go to our mobile site kind of thing, and they would present just the information that could be viewed, and that line blurred more and more now, and the technology available can be displayed on whatever device you're carrying.
There's still a couple sites I see that are, you're on the mobile and you're like, I know there's something missing here. And then you see on the bottom, click to see our full site.
Yeah.
Like, all the information I wanted to see apparently is on your full site, but
Right.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. And we've gotten spoiled nowadays. We don't really need to do that anymore.
Right.
The technology is available that you can.
Our hours of operation are only on our desktop site.
It's funny you say that. I mean, because I think too, I mean, kind of that first impression thing, you think about a business card, you think about whatever, which obviously a website is much more than a business card, but it's almost like when you used to have when you had a business card and you didn't have a website, it was like, oh, I have a website. Oh, that's, or if you didn't have a website, oh, you don't have a website. Like, and now it's like, I almost feel like my impression is, oh, your site's not responsive.
Right.
Oh, you're not mobile friendly.
Right.
Wow, you guys are living in 2010. I don't know. I think it's funny. It's this progression of technology almost starts to dictate your impression of a brand, even or an organization. So I don't know.
Anything else on that trend list?
No, not really. Nothing specific, I guess. The only thing that I thought was really interesting that I wrote down myself, and I did see it on a couple things, was, obviously the rise of, with all this stuff, there's also the rise of data. When you think about AI and those types of things that are constantly being written about, and the progression of machine learning and those types of things is, just data, how important data is nowadays, and how you're going to see, it's already here, even that careers in strictly knowing how to convey what data means, and so I saw a couple of things about data visualization, which is totally true. I mean, even anything about us, even from a more of a, what's the right word for it? Some of the infographics we've done over the years or for ourselves and stuff, is really kind of a data visualization project, probably stripped down in the most, kind of bigger ideas, if you will. But you think about some of the so much complex data and how to visualize that. I mean, that's, and some of the stuff that I've seen that's it's kind of blurring that data in an almost marketing piece where it's almost becoming something you almost need to not only from a data standpoint, when you think about measurement and you think about all those types of things on a marketing side, but even just taking some of the things that might mean something really important to someone, but how do you best convey that?
Right.
Being able to put that into more of a visual medium that allows you to consume that so much easier. Huge thing. It's going to just get more and more. And I think you even said you have friends already doing data visualization.
Yeah.
Companies.
His primary job is taking just huge amounts of data and
Yeah.
putting it in a format that's usable to the decision makers at his company who are going to consume it. And they don't care about how complex the data is. They want it in a format where they can present it to people and understand it. Yeah. And some of that even ties into the mobile stuff we've been talking about. You have to take that data and provide it to someone that can in a way that can be viewed on a small format or whatever device is being used at the moment.
Right.
We have apps on demand that people can just pull a phone up and look at information they're trying to find. So it all kind of relates together.
What's funny too is you look at some of these really complex data visualization things. They're beautiful.
Oh, I love some of the visualizations I've seen.
Oh my God! It's what blows my mind is, again, it's that blurring of technology and art that is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
But so anyways, not to get too far off track, but I mean, I saw that on a couple of lists, and I'm like, yeah, it's coming, it's here, it's whether it's going to be even more, as that becomes more and more of an influencer in people's lives. Anything about content.
Yep.
I mean, the content that we're creating, and then what people interacting with that, or what that content can mean a lot of different things. There's data behind some of that stuff, and that's why AI is going to have such a huge thing, and that's why too. Then how do you best convey some of that so people can understand it? Because some of it can be very, very complex. So I don't know, just something interesting to think about. I don't see myself doing a lot of data visualization this year, but
Yeah. Well, I look back at one of my favorite things in the past to design was annual reports.
Yeah.
You know, most of them were in the printed form.
Yeah.
But I used to love that stuff. Being
Yeah.
able to, and that's at its simplest form, I think, is being able to convey, you know, financials and
Yeah.
data. And then now, like you said, the infographic was maybe that next step up, and now it's boom, just exploding at whatever you could imagine for
And
that
interactive.
visualization. Yeah, and interactive, and so I mean, I'm very interested in it, but yeah, we don't necessarily have to do a lot of that right now.
Right now, yeah. So, anyways, interesting stuff. Yeah, I don't know. That's about it on my list. So,
That's a great list.
2018 though is looking kind of bright.
Mm-hmm.
I have to wear my shades.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering when that was coming.
Yep. Future's so bright. Gotta wear shades. It's a blast from the past.
You wear your sunglasses at night.
Or my sunglasses
Yeah,
at night.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember any other ones right now. So, well, cool. Well,
All right.
2018 should be cool. I know we're up to about our eyeballs in work right now, and we've got some potential stuff on the horizon. And like I said, our resolution, if we have one, is to do this every 2 weeks. So, see you guys in 2 weeks, I guess. But
So we don't have to show up until 2 weeks from now?
right. You have off till then, and we'll do the podcast.
Because we make so much money off of our podcast that we don't even need
We're
to
killing
do
it.
client work.
Yeah, we're killing it.
I like
So,
this new trend.
Yeah. So
See what I did there?
I saw what you did there. Yeah. So
All right. Well,
all right. Well, I guess until 2 weeks from now or so.
happy 2018.
Yeah. Happy 2018, and let's make it our best year yet.
Wow.
All right. See you later.
Bye.